From Interior Alaska's most trusted news source, this is the Fairbanks Evening News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A North Pole woman who was in a brief standoff with law enforcement yesterday was arraigned this afternoon in Fairbanks District Court.
50-year-old Delana Dixon was charged with a single count of third-degree felony assault. According to court documents, troopers attempted to contact Dixon after she had threatened to harm her neighbors on multiple occasions. Once troopers arrived at her residence, she charged an officer with an axe. The officer reportedly drew his weapon and told her to put the axe down, but she turned and fled into the house. She was not arrested at that time. Now instead, a warrant was issued for her arrest on May 12th, and her car was stopped and surrounded by trooper cars yesterday at Airport Way in Gillum. Troopers said after a 15-minute standoff, she surrendered and was taken into custody. Dixon's defense attorney chastised law enforcement this afternoon for the way the incident was handled.
All of them were aware of what we were doing, yet elected to intervene before the 3 o'clock deadline and take matters into their own hands because, quite frankly, in my opinion, they were more concerned about whether or not to send her to the hospital or the jail. I just urge the court to take a close look at this allegation and the complaint and the fact that a trooper, in my opinion, walked onto someone's property when they were absolutely not justified to do so.
A Fort Wainwright soldier pleaded guilty in Fairbanks Superior Court this afternoon for his part in a string of armed robberies. Brandon Charles pleaded guilty to a single reduced charge of conspiracy to commit armed robbery, which is a Class B felony. Charles and 2 other co-defendants allegedly robbed multiple pedestrians at gunpoint earlier this year. Authorities were able to track the trio down after one of them dropped his dog tags at the scene of one of the robberies. All 3 were arrested. Last month, Devin McMillan pleaded guilty to reduced misdemeanors for his part in the crime. Keith Downing, who faces the most serious charges, has yet to formally accept a deal from the state. Sentencing for Brandon Charles will be held in June.
The defense attorney for one of the men in the group known as the Fairbanks Four will no longer be assigned to the divisive case due to funding issues. Now, it was made public today that defense attorney for Eugene Vent, Colleen Libby, will no longer be part of the case after working on it for nearly 8 years. Vent and the 3 other men, Marvin Roberts, Kevin Peace, and George Freese, were convicted of the 1997 murder of Fairbanks teenager John Hartman. The men have sought exoneration after a former Fairbanks man in jail for murder allegedly confessed to the crime. A hearing held this morning confirmed the attorney changed due to the cuts. Vent will now be assigned a new attorney from the Office of Public Advocacy. Whitney Glover will handle Vent's ongoing post-conviction relief case, which is set to go to trial later this year. Vent was due to give his official deposition tomorrow, but the court denied a motion to continue with that hearing and gave his new lawyer until mid-June to catch up on the near 18-year-old case.
The Fairbanks North Star Borough is holding a second town hall meeting on marijuana legalization a week from tonight. Public comment will be taken during the meeting, which begins at 6 p.m. next Wednesday at the Pioneer Park Civic Center. A similar town hall was held in early December. Borough Mayor Luke Hopkins has been leading a marijuana working group tasked with gathering information to craft local zoning regulations for commercial marijuana operations in the borough. The public has not had the chance to weigh in during the working group meetings, but will have that chance at the town hall. The December 3rd event was well attended by local residents who voiced their opinions on legalized pot. Hopkins is hoping for a similar turnout next Wednesday.
And we had many residents, community members come in and talk to the elected bodies, and we hope to have that again. And again, the borough administration, the community planning, and will present what we have so far as a snapshot of how we may roll out in our community the business aspects of marijuana.
All right, when we come back, this is a gross one. Large black ants are invading the interior, but it's nothing to be alarmed about. I don't know, but stay tuned because we'll tell you why. Also, the first annual Bacon Festival commemorating a fire 100 years ago will kick off Friday with a number of events and, of course, lots of bacon. More stories when we return. Welcome back. The creator of a bill aimed at protecting children from sexual assault in all 50 states is blasting Alaska legislatures, saying her efforts now seem doomed to failure. Child sexual abuse survivor Erin Marin is the backer of Erin's Law, which remains on the legislature's special session agenda this year as the state fights some of the nation's highest rates of sexual assault and domestic violence. She called out state lawmakers in a posting on her Facebook page today after Senate Education Committee Chair Senator Mike Dunleavy merged the bill with 3 other bills on Tuesday. Marin wrote that she is fed up with Alaska legislatures and the games they are playing at the expense of children's lives. Dunleavy responded to Marin's tweet.
These are very passionate issues, and obviously it's Erin's opinion, but I do think it's a very good law. I do think that all school districts will embrace it. We'll be educating kids in these areas.
Every year there seems to be a new bug that has an explosion in population. One year it was the caterpillars, the next hornets, and then ladybugs. This year it's the giant ants. Carpenter ants are among the largest ant species native to Alaska. Well-established colonies have winged individuals that range from 3 to 13 millimeters in length. Residing both outdoors and indoors, the ants look for moist, decaying wood to form nests. Homeowners should take notice of any debris the ants produce from tunneling into wood, such as wood shavings. Cooperative Extension Agent Steve Seefeld says that piles of wood shavings are a good sign of ant nesting activity.
If you see them, make sure that you don't have any wet wood up against your house. Make sure that the wood of your house is not wet and soft. If you do get carpenter ants, you'll need to call an exterminator to get rid of them. Once they're in your house, they're really difficult to deal with.
100 years ago, a fire started that soon had downtown Fairbanks burning. Firefighters battled the blaze, but the water pressure was too low. The general store owner came up with the idea of dumping 2,000 pounds of bacon into the boiler to increase the pressure. Now, the idea worked and firefighters were able to extinguish the blaze. This weekend, Festival Fairbanks will recognize that event with a 2-day celebration. The Bacon Festival will be held on Friday and Saturday. There will be a variety of events on Saturday night, including a well-known comedian, 22 chefs preparing bacon samplers, and a popular band providing the music.
Festival Fairbanks, they really focus on the history of what's going on, especially in the downtown area. And so we wanted to create a fundraiser out of that idea, educating people on what happened in the past and making it relevant now. You can get all your tickets on baconfestivalfairbanks.com, and tickets are very limited.
6th Squadron, 17th Cavalry Regiment, held a ceremony earlier this month as it prepares for a major change. Monty Bowen has details now in this week's Military Report.
The unit held a deactivation ceremony on Fort Wainwright as it prepared for a change of mission. It's part of the Aviation Restructure Initiative, in which the Army plans to divest itself of legacy aircraft, modernize advanced aircraft, and reorganize the force.
Today we're casing the squadron's colors for the inactivation as we transition to the Apache unit, which is inbound to Alaska.
Significant changes as part of the reorganization include a reduction in combat aviation brigades and the retirement of all aging single-engine helicopters, including the Kiowa Warrior that the 617th flew.
617 is going to move its colors to Fort Carson, Colorado to stand up a Apache unit there.
U.S. Army Alaska will gain another unit.
So the new command for the Apache unit is coming out of Germany, and 3rd of the 159th, and it'll be reflagged a little bit later, but they should start arriving in July, and then it'll take a year before they're complete.
The unit started out with troops on horseback when it activated as Troop F, 17th Cavalry Regiment in 1916 at Fort Bliss, Texas, and served during World War II and in Vietnam and Iraq. In May 2006, the squadron was restationed at Fort Wainwright as a USARAC aviation asset. This is Monty Bowen reporting.
The Military Report is brought to you by Stanley Nissan. Innovation for all.
I am still disgusted by that ant story.
Oh, but I'm just happy with the bacon story. Love bacon.
It's such a contrast. Bacon.
Or ants.
So happy. Ants. So not
not
happy.
Okay, Joe Cook is up next with sports. That makes me happy. He has a preview of the local summer racing circuits, which start this week.
Also, hear how the Alaska Nanooks are dealing with the undecided state budget.
All right, that's all next after the break with Bacon.
What's going on, Interior Alaska? Joe Cook here with your local Wednesday Sportscast. The temperatures are up and the sun is out. Spring is here and summer is approaching, which means the interior racing season will begin. Let's start at the North Pole Speedway.
Once you hear those engines, you know it's that time of the year again.
Tuesday night, the drivers of the North Pole Speedway had a practice session as they get ready for the 2015 season, which starts this Thursday night. In the Bandos class, defending champion Destiny Todd will be in the crosshairs of a few drivers. Steve Hunter was runner-up last season, while Shylin Anaker and Whitney Parzik finished in the top 5 last season. They both learned some valuable lessons that they feel will make a difference this summer.
Last year, there was actually a lot of problems. I learned, like, stay off people, give them space, stuff like that.
Don't go under people when they're really close, and don't bump into people.
One mark of a growing sport like the local racing scene is gaining the interest from people who aren't too familiar with it. Albeit a different kind of driver, four-time Iditarod and Yukon Quest champion Lance Mackey took a spin on the paved oval track last night, courtesy of defending Legends champion Al Treadle.
It's always cool to do something a little different, and you know, they gave her the opportunity to come on and do a few laps. I don't know if I look good doing it. I don't really care. It was awesome. You know, if I have an opportunity to do it again, I'm going to be on it, and I'll be out here every weekend.
Treadle will look to repeat as Legends champion this season, but there will be competition. Rod Harker was runner-up last year, while John Beck was 4th a year ago. Both drivers will push Treadle in this year's class.
The engine's getting a little tired. I think it's probably the 4th year on this new sealed engine. I think, John, there in the 27 car will be some competition for us this year. There's some other new guys. We hear there's some other guys from the racing shops here in town. So we'll just see what brings up.
This year there will be a quarter midgets class and lawnmower races, which will be on the newly made dirt track in the infield. The first race of the season on the paved quarter-mile oval at the North Pole Speedway is this Thursday night at 7 p.m. Joe Cook reporting. And you can't forget about the Greater Fairbanks Racing Association. There will be racing action on the farthest north dirt track this weekend as well. You'll be able to see the Mini Bomber, Dollar Stock, Sportsman, and Modified and Sprint car classes. It could be another exciting year for those smaller classes. Joe Heath won the Mini Bomber class by just 3 points over Bill Cutchole last summer. Chris Stagnon was an 8-point winner in the Dollar Stock class, and Ed Berger won by 8 points in the Sportsman class. One driver to see will be 4-time and defending Modified class champion Scott Sluka. Back in January, Sluka was the first Alaskan in 14 years to race in the IMCA Extreme Motorsports Modified races in Arizona. He finished 17th and 18th, and he didn't finish his third race. GFRA will have their first races of the 2015 season in a 2-night opening weekend event this Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. at the Mitchell Raceway. There has been a lot of movement in coaching staffs at UAF. There have been new additions, and there will be more to come. On Monday, Nick Crawford was named the new cross-country and skiing coach last month. Brian Scott was named the new volleyball head coach. There are a few more coaching positions to be filled, including a women's basketball assistant and a cross-country assistant coach. Ashlyn Ryan will not return after finishing her cross-country assistant coaching internship. UAF is also looking for a sports information director. This offseason has been busy, challenging, and rewarding for athletic director Dr. Gary Gray, who's waiting to see what the state budget will look like. That will determine a lot of what happens for the athletic department for the upcoming season.
Really the busiest thing at this point is the budget and the uncertainty of the state budget. So that takes a lot of time, and the uncertainty of that is very challenging because we're trying to make plans for next year without really knowing how much money will be available. And so we're making multiple levels of plans, different contingencies, without knowing what that general fund cut is going to be. So, but we had a budget cut last year, and so, but it's likely to be a larger budget cut this next year.
And just in case you missed it, Game 2 of the NHL Western Conference Finals between the Chicago Blackhawks and Anaheim Ducks. This game lasted 116 minutes and 12 seconds. So you'll try anything to win, right? Tied 2-2 in the second overtime. Andrew Shaw, he goes for the soccer header like Abby Wambach or Braden DeWeese. The goal was disallowed, but in overtime, number 3, Chicago's Marcus Kruger, he ends the madness with the game winner, beating Frederick Anderson, who made 53 saves. The Blackhawks tied the series 1-1 with a 3-2 win in triple overtime. It's the longest game in Blackhawks history. And that's it for sports tonight. Mike Schultz is next with your full weather forecast, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey everyone, welcome back into a Wednesday edition of the Fairbanks Evening News. Mike Schultz with you once again. We're talking about weather, we're talking about hot temperatures, and they're going to continue. In fact, we're looking at low 80s for this weekend. No rain in the forecast right now. Maybe next week we might see some showers, but right now it's obviously very, very dry. Our picture, as I say, is sent tonight by Bill Cody. He was across the Birch Lake and looking down the Tanana River and across and saw this beautiful shot of the mountains there. And again, was able to capture that for us and share it. As you can see, a very nice photograph. And as always, if you have a photograph, well, send it to photos@ktvf11.com and we'll share it with the rest of the audience. Here's your numbers right now. 79, almost the 80-degree mark. The low last night, 47. Your record high, I should say, was 80 in 2002 and 27 in 2013. Sunrise and sunset, 19 hours and 15 minutes of daylight, a gain of 7 minutes from yesterday. On our satellite and radar, again, all the moisture is over to the western side of the state because high pressure is really dominating, keeping all these clouds off to the east and off to the west, and just giving us mainly just high clouds, and that's about it. Any precipitation is hanging off to the west, and that's not really that heavy either. There are thunderstorms over in Canada, as you can see there. On the rest of the map, or rest of what's going on the rest of the map, as you can see here, sunshine around Juneau and Ketchikan, not quite 70 degrees at Juneau. Around the Anchorage Bowl, 59 degrees, some showers at Kodiak, 47 degrees, Cold Bay at 46, and up and down the west coast, very nice temperatures, 41 at Nome, not too bad. Partly cloudy skies at Barrow, 37, and almost 80 degrees in Fort Yukon, 79 for their high there. And we want to pass this along. The red flag warning is in effect for extremely low humidity. It's all expected to continue right on into the weekend. So the fire danger is critical. No relief until next week. And we'll tell you about that later on. As far as what's going on in the lower 48, here's what it looks like. As you can see here, we're looking at thunderstorms once again across parts of Texas. Still nice out to the west. It's warmed up a little bit more around the Phoenix area, 93. Not a bad day in Seattle, 73 there. Warming up a little bit in Minneapolis, and Chicago still fairly chilly, 48 degrees there. Showers around the New Orleans area, as you would expect, and around the Miami, Florida area. It's not nearly as warm as it was yesterday in Washington, D.C., and some showers in the New York region. And our forecast on the satellite and radar is showing a little band of moisture moving across to the east. That's helping to bring the showers there. More storms developing across parts of Texas, and these could become very, very heavy and bring quite a bit of rainfall. And another area of low pressure trying to form off the coast there, bringing more showers over to the Pacific Northwest. Now, the activity we're looking at tomorrow is more thunderstorms in the evening hours across much of Texas, and a steady rainfall expected in the Missouri Valley with more rain off to the east, too, and things drying out off to the west. Now, the jet stream is going to be taking a big dive down to the south, and that's usually an indicator that we're going to get some very severe weather, so I have to keep an eye on that, as obviously the flood threat would be widespread over a large portion of the country. Well, back to Alaska for tomorrow. For the northern sections, rain showers for Barrow and Nome. And there's still a flood warning for the Fort Yukon area, around the Fort Yukon area through 11:15 Friday night. The Porcupine River is still high, so we've got to keep an eye on that and keep advised if you can, if you're in that neck of the woods. And as far as the interior is concerned, once again, beautiful weather, red flag warning for all areas due to low humidity. Otherwise, sunny and hot. We can say that word. It's going to get hot. And the forecast for the southeastern sections, mostly sunny skies for Juneau. There's a chance of showers in the Ketchikan region. Over to the southwest, so looking at the rain likely for Cold Bay and rain for Kodiak and Bethel. So a very wet weather pattern there. While over the Anchorage Bowl, it looks like partly cloudy skies for Anchorage and Valdez, and just an isolated shower in the Homer area. Okay, our forecast for the remainder of the night looks like this. Another beautiful evening with clear skies, 48 degrees for the overnight low, very nice. Tomorrow, once again, right up near that 80 mark, lots of sunshine along with the warm temperatures. And we're still looking at warm temperatures through the weekend. As you see here, low 80s possibly for Saturday and Sunday. But now we've actually added a little bit of a chance of showers on Monday for Memorial Day, the celebrations there. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And looking at overnight lows also right around the low 50s.
Well, you know, I guess we could use that rain with the high red flag warnings going on right now. So
very much so, yeah. It's really dangerous out there.
Unless it comes with lightning, and then obviously that can spark it off.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're not looking at any thunderstorm activity, that's for sure.
Very good.
Yeah.
But still looking good for Memorial Day.
Yeah, just be careful with any fires you have, barbecues or anything like that.
Barbecues especially.
Don't throw your cigarettes out the window, none of that. Yeah.
Right.
Save me a plate. Save him a plate.
Save him a plate.
All right, that'll wrap up this edition of the Fairbanks Evening News. We are glad you could join us. But before we leave you tonight,
KTVF and Bailey's Furniture are teaming up for a Spring Dream giveaway where you can win a furniture package from Bailey's. valued at 2,500 bones.
That's new to me. No, actually, this week's mystery word is bunk. Visit Bailey's Furniture for more information and your chance to win.
Okay, tonight on NBC Nightly News, crews are racing to save the wildlife after a Santa Barbara oil spill. That is up next with Lester Holt.
You can join us here 6 days a week at 6 and 11 or online anytime at webster11.com.
All right, that'll do it from all of us here at the News Center. Have a good night.
Good night.